5 kilometers beneath the surface of Earth, a city glowed with artificial light. The city was called New Dawn, and it was home to 200 million humans. It stretched for hundreds of kilometers in every direction. Carved out of solid rock by machines that never stopped working, Commander Taiho walked through the central plaza of New Dawn. He was 60 years old, but looked younger. Medical technology had improved greatly during the 3 centuries underground. People lived longer. They stayed healthier. They had plenty of time to plan and prepare. Around him, the city buzzed with activity. Children played in parks filled with plants grown under special lights. Workers hurried to their jobs in factories that ran day and night. Soldiers trained in massive underground fields, their movements sharp and precise. This was what humanity had become: hidden, patient, determined. Taiho remembered the stories his grandmother told him when he was a child. She had been alive during the Great Purge. She had been only 10 years old when the bombs fell. Her family had escaped into an old mine just hours before the radiation spread across the surface. Those first years were the hardest. Thousands of survivors gathered in caves and tunnels all over the world. They had almost no food, almost no water, almost no hope. Many people died from hunger and disease. Many more died from radiation sickness when they tried to return to the surface too soon. But humans were stubborn. They refused to give up. Within the first decade, the scattered groups found ways to communicate. They built radio systems that sent signals through the rock. They mapped the underground rivers and learned to grow food in dark places. They created small communities that slowly grew larger. Taiho's grandmother often said that the aliens made a terrible mistake. They thought destroying the cities would destroy humanity. They did not understand that humans had survived ice ages, plagues, and countless wars. They did not understand that humans were at their strongest when everything seemed hopeless. By the time 100 years had passed, the underground cities were thriving. Engineers developed technology that recycled everything. Nothing was wasted. Air was cleaned and reused. Water was purified again and again. Food was grown in vast hydroponic farms that produced more than enough for everyone. And then the scientists made their greatest discovery. Taiho walked to the edge of the plaza and looked down into a massive pit. At the bottom of the pit, glowing with blue light, was the fusion reactor that powered New Dawn. It was as big as a mountain and produced more energy than humanity had ever used in its entire history before the Great Purge. A young engineer named Hana stood beside him. She was 35 years old, with short black hair and intelligent eyes. She was the head of the energy department, responsible for keeping the reactor running. "Power output is stable," Hana reported. "We have enough energy to power the fleet for the next 50 years without any new fuel." Taiho nodded. "Good. How are the new engines performing?" Hana smiled. "Better than expected. The latest tests show we can reach faster than light speeds that are twice as fast as anything the Council has. Our ships will outrun anything they send after us." This was the secret that humanity had discovered during their years underground. Without the distractions of surface life, without wars between nations, without politics and greed, humans had focused entirely on science. They had worked together in ways they never had before. Every brilliant mind in every underground city contributed to a single goal: survival. And survival meant building a fleet that could challenge the entire galaxy. Taiho remembered when the first ship was completed. He was just a young officer then, barely 20 years old. The ship was small, only big enough for a crew of 10. But it flew. It actually flew through the tunnels and caves, navigating the underground world with ease. That small ship had been the beginning. Over the next 40 years, humanity built more ships. Bigger ships. Faster ships. ships with weapons that could cut through any armor, ships with shields that could stop any attack. Now, 300 years after the Great Purge, humanity had 500,000 warships waiting in hidden hangars across the planet. "Commander," Hana said, "we received word from New Hope City. Their fleet is ready. That brings our total to full strength." Taiho closed his eyes. Full strength. After 3 centuries of preparation, they were finally ready. But ready for what? That was the question that kept Taiho awake at night. Some people wanted revenge. They wanted to find the species that destroyed their world and make them pay. Other people wanted peace. They wanted to reveal themselves to the galaxy and demand a place among the stars. Taiho wanted neither. He wanted something more difficult. He wanted humanity to return as something better than they had been before. Better than the Council. Better than the aliens who had tried to wipe them out. His thoughts were interrupted by an alarm. Red lights flashed across the plaza. People stopped what they were doing and looked up with fear in their eyes. "Report," Taiho commanded into his communicator. A voice answered immediately. "Sir, our surface monitors detected alien ships in orbit. They sent probes into the ground. We had to destroy them before they discovered our cities." Taiho felt his heart beat faster. "Were we detected?" "We do not think so. The probes were destroyed at 4 kilometers depth. Our cities are deeper. But sir, the alien ships left quickly. They may have noticed something strange." Hana grabbed Taiho's arm. "If they suspect we are alive, they will come back with a larger force. They will dig deeper." "I know," Taiho said. He thought for a moment, then made his decision. "Call a meeting of all city commanders. Tell them we need to accelerate our timeline. The launch may have to happen sooner than we planned." Within hours, holographic images of commanders from all 15 underground cities appeared in Taiho's meeting room. They represented humanity's leadership, chosen not by voting, but by merit. The best strategists, the wisest elders, the most skilled engineers. General Sora was the military commander. She was 70 years old, but still strong and sharp. She had trained every soldier in the underground cities. Her methods were hard, but fair. Her soldiers would follow her into any battle. "We have a problem," Taiho said. "Alien ships have visited Earth. They sent probes underground. We destroyed the probes, but they may become suspicious." Sora leaned forward. "Then we should launch immediately. Surprise is our greatest weapon. If we wait too long, they will prepare defenses." Another commander, an old man named Junsu, shook his head. "Our crews need more training. The ships are ready, but the people are not. We have never fought a real battle. Everything has been simulations." "Simulations based on 300 years of studying our enemies," Sora replied. "We know their tactics. We know their weaknesses. Our technology is superior. Training can continue during the journey." Taiho listened to both sides. He understood the risks of launching too early. He also understood the risks of waiting too long. "We will not launch today," he said finally. "But we will begin final preparations. I want every ship fully supplied and every crew in position within 1 month. If the aliens return in force, we need to be ready to move." The commanders agreed. The meeting ended, and Taiho was left alone with his thoughts. He walked to a window that looked out over New Dawn City. Below him, millions of people went about their daily lives. Children, parents, grandparents. Teachers, doctors, workers. All of them were counting on him to make the right decision. For 300 years, humanity had been preparing for this moment. They had built an army in secret. They had created technology that surpassed anything the galaxy had ever seen. They had turned their underground prison into a fortress. But Taiho knew that technology and numbers were not enough. The aliens had tried to commit genocide. They had murdered billions of innocent people. If humanity returned with only thoughts of revenge, they would be no better than their enemies. Hannah found him still standing at the window hours later. "You are worried," she said. "I am afraid," Taiho admitted. "Not of the battle. I know we can win the battle. I am afraid of what happens after. I am afraid that we will become the monsters they believed us to be." Hannah stood beside him and looked out at the city. "My great-great-grandmother was a historian before the Great Purge. She wrote about human nature. She said that humans have always had two sides. One side builds. One side destroys. The challenge is choosing which side to feed. And which side are we feeding now?" Hannah was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Both. We built these cities with love and hope. We built the fleet with anger and fear. When we return to the surface, we will have to choose which feeling guides us." Taiho nodded slowly. It was the truth he had been avoiding. The fleet gave them power, but power without wisdom was dangerous. They needed more than weapons. They needed a vision for the future. "Give me the recordings," he said. "All the recordings from before the Great Purge. Every book, every speech, every piece of music and art that our ancestors saved. I want to remember who we were before they tried to destroy us." Hannah understood immediately. "You want to remind people what we are fighting for." "I want to remind myself," Taiho said. "I need to remember that we are more than survivors. We are more than soldiers. We are human beings, and that means something." Over the next few weeks, Taiho watched the old recordings every night. He saw cities full of light. He saw people from different countries working together. He saw artists creating beautiful scout. Do-hyun sat alone in a small room filled with equipment. Screens covered every wall. Speakers played sounds from across the galaxy. His job was simple but important. Listen to everything and report anything unusual. He had been doing this job for 15 years. Every day, he put on his headphones and tuned into alien communications. He learned their languages. He studied their cultures. He understood their jokes and their fears. Sometimes he felt like he knew the aliens better than he knew his own people. Today was supposed to be like any other day. Do-hyun adjusted his equipment and began scanning through different frequencies. Most of the signals were boring. Trade negotiations, weather reports, ships asking for landing permissions. Then he found something different. The signal was coming from the Council homeworld. It was being broadcast on all frequencies, sent to every corner of the galaxy. Do-hyun enhanced the signal and listened carefully. At first, he heard music. Strange alien music with too many notes and not enough rhythm. Then a voice began speaking in the common language that all Council species used. "Citizens of the galaxy, today we celebrate a glorious anniversary. 300 years ago, the Council made a brave decision. We recognized a threat to our way of life, and we dealt with it. The dangerous species called humans is gone forever. Let us remember this day and be grateful for the peace we now enjoy." Do-hyun felt his hands tighten into fists. He kept listening. The humans were a young species with old problems. They fought among themselves constantly. They polluted their own planet. They had weapons that could destroy worlds. If we had allowed them to spread across the galaxy, they would have brought their chaos with them. We did what was necessary to protect ourselves. The voice continued, praising the Council for its wisdom. It spoke of humans like they were animals that needed to be put down. It called the Great Purge a humanitarian action that saved the galaxy from disaster. Do-hyun recorded everything. His hands were shaking with anger, but he forced himself to stay professional. The commander needed to hear this. When the broadcast ended, Do-hyun sent an urgent message to General Sora. She arrived in his listening room within minutes. "Play it," she ordered. Do-hyun played the recording. He watched Sora's face as she listened. Her expression did not change, but her eyes grew colder with every word. When it finished, she stood in silence for a long moment. "They celebrate our deaths," she said quietly. "Every year, they have a party to remember how they killed us." This broadcast went to every planet in the Council territory, Dohyun reported. Billions of aliens heard this message. Sora nodded slowly. "Good. That means when we return, they will all see how wrong they were." She turned to leave, then stopped at the door. "Keep listening. I want to know everything they say about us. Every insult, every lie, every celebration. Record it all." "Yes, General." After Sora left, Dohyun continued his work. But now he listened with different ears. Before, he had tried to understand the aliens objectively. Now he heard them as enemies. Enemies who mocked his ancestors. Enemies who thought they were safe. They were wrong. General Sora went directly to Commander Taiho's office. She found him reviewing ship deployment plans with Captain Kyung, one of the youngest commanders in the fleet. Kyung was only 40 years old, but he had shown brilliant tactical thinking in every simulation. "We have a problem," Sora said. "Or perhaps an opportunity." She played the alien broadcast. Taiho and Kyung listened without speaking. When it ended, Kyung's face was hard. "They celebrate our genocide. They teach their children that killing us was a good thing." "Yes," Taiho said, "but this is not new information. We have known about these celebrations for decades." Sora stepped closer. "This year is different. This is their 300th anniversary. The celebrations will be bigger than ever. Every council leader will be gathered on the homeworld. Every fleet admiral. Every important official." Taiho understood immediately. "You want to attack during the celebration." "I want to appear during the celebration," Sora corrected. "Think about it. They will be together, feeling safe and proud. And then, suddenly, 500,000 human warships will fill their sky. The psychological impact will be devastating." Kyung was nodding eagerly. "She is right, Commander. Surprise is valuable, but the timing of that surprise matters. If we strike while they are celebrating our death, the irony will break their spirit before we fire a single shot." Taiho walked to his window and looked out at the city below. The launch preparations were almost complete. Ships were being moved into position. Crews were saying goodbye to their families. "When is the celebration?" he asked. 30 days from now," Sora replied. "Exactly 300 years after the final attack on Earth." 30 days. It was sooner than Taiho had planned. But Sora was right about the psychological advantage. The council species believed in signs and symbols. Appearing on the anniversary of their supposed victory would shake them to their core. "Begin accelerated preparations," Taiho ordered. "I want the fleet ready to launch in 25 days. That gives us 5 days of travel time to reach council space." Sora saluted and left to give the orders. Kyung stayed behind. "Commander," Kyung said, "may I speak freely?" "Always." Some of the younger officers are eager for revenge. They have grown up hearing stories about the Great Purge. They want to make the aliens pay for what they did. Kyung paused. "I understand that feeling. I share it sometimes. But I also know that revenge can make people blind. It can make them make mistakes." Taiho turned to face him. "What are you suggesting?" "I am suggesting that we need a clear goal beyond just revenge. We need to know what victory looks like. Is it destroying the council? Is it forcing them to surrender? Is it something else?" It was a good question. Taiho had been thinking about it for years. "Our goal is not destruction," he said slowly. "Our goal is recognition. We want the galaxy to know that humanity exists. We want them to respect us. We want a place among the stars that no one can take away from us. And if they refuse to give us that place, then we will take it. But we will not become monsters in the process. We will fight when we must, but we will show mercy when we can. The aliens fear us because they believe we are violent and dangerous. We will prove them wrong by being better than they expect." Kyung nodded, satisfied with the answer. "I will make sure my crews understand. We are not fighting for revenge. We are fighting for the future." After Kyung left, Taiho sat alone in his office. The weight of command pressed down on him. Every decision he made would affect millions of lives. Human lives. Alien lives. Lives that had not yet been born. He opened a drawer in his desk and took out an old photograph. It showed a young woman with a bright smile, holding a baby in her arms. The photograph was over 300 years old. The woman was his great-grandmother. The baby was his great-grandfather. This photograph was one of the few things his family had saved during the escape. Underground. Taiho's grandmother had given it to him when he was a boy. She told him to remember that before the Great Purge, humans had simple lives. They had families. They had dreams. They loved and hoped just like anyone else. The aliens had tried to erase all of that. They had tried to delete humanity from the universe. But they had failed. And now, those same families, those same dreams, those same hopes would rise from the ashes and demand justice. In the following days, the underground cities worked at a frantic pace. Ships were loaded with supplies. Weapons were tested and calibrated. Crews ran simulation after simulation until they could perform their duties in their sleep. Engineer Hannah led the effort to prepare the engines for launch. Each ship needed to be able to break through the Earth's crust and reach orbit in seconds. The timing had to be perfect. If even one ship malfunctioned during the launch, it could crash into others and cause a chain reaction of disasters. "Run the diagnostic again," Hannah ordered her team. "I want every system checked 3 times. We cannot afford any mistakes." Her assistant, a young man named Jinu, looked up from his screen. "All systems are showing green, Chief. The engines are ready." Ready is not good enough. They need to be perfect. Hannah understood the stakes better than anyone. She had spent her entire career preparing for this moment. Every equation she had solved, every problem she had fixed, had been leading to this day. If she failed, humanity's return would end in disaster. But she would not fail. Humanity had not survived 300 years underground just to crash on their way to the stars. Meanwhile, Scout Do-hyun continued listening to alien communications. He heard discussions about the upcoming celebration. He heard council leaders bragging about their roles in the Great Purge. He heard historians teaching lies about humanity's extinction. But he also heard something else. Something unexpected. Ambassador Myra, the leader of the Wanderers, had given a speech at a small gathering. Unlike the others, she did not celebrate humanity's death. Instead, she spoke with sadness about the loss of a unique species. She wondered aloud if the council had made a mistake. Do-hyun recorded her speech and brought it to Commander Taiho. "This is interesting," Taiho said after listening. "The Wanderers were always neutral. They did not partic." The day had finally arrived. Captain Kyung stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dawn's Light. The ship was massive, stretching over 3 kilometers from bow to stern. It carried 10,000 crew members and enough weapons to destroy a planet. But it had never seen the sky. Today that would change. Around him, his bridge crew worked at their stations. They were young, most of them born underground. They had trained for this moment their entire lives. Now their hands moved across controls with practiced precision, but Kyung could see the nervous excitement in their eyes. "All stations report ready," his first officer announced. Her name was Somin, and she had been with Kyung since his first command. Engine power at full. Weapons charged. Shields standing by. Kyung nodded. "Open a channel to the fleet." The communication screen flickered, then showed images of dozens of other ship bridges. Commanders from across Earth's underground cities waited for his words. As the leader of the first wave, Kyung had the honor of leading 50,000 ships into the sky. "Brothers and sisters," Kyung said, "today we do something our ancestors could only dream of. Today we leave our prison and return to the stars. Many of you have never seen natural sunlight. Many of you have never breathed fresh air. Today that changes." He paused, feeling the weight of history pressing down on him. "The aliens believe we are dead. They believe they won 300 years ago. In a few minutes, we will teach them that they were wrong. We will rise from the earth like ghosts, and we will show them that humanity cannot be killed." He raised his fist to his chest in the salute that all human soldiers used. "For Earth, for humanity, for everyone we lost." 50,000 commanders returned the salute. The channel closed. Kyung turned to Soman. "Begin launch sequence." Deep beneath the ship, massive engines began to roar. The vibration traveled through the entire vessel, shaking the walls and floor. Kyung grabbed the railing in front of him as the ship began to move. Above them, hidden doors that had been sealed for 3 centuries started to open. Rock and soil fell away as the way to the surface cleared. Dim gray light filtered down through the opening. Real light. Sunlight. Kyung had seen simulations of the sky. He had watched old recordings and studied photographs. But nothing had prepared him for the real thing. Even polluted and gray, the sky was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. "Clear of the tunnel," someone reported. "We are airborne." The dawn's light rose into the sky of Earth. Around it, hundreds of other ships emerged from openings across the continent. They rose like pillars of fire, their engines creating clouds of smoke and steam. Kyung walked to the viewing window and watched the ground fall away below him. He could see the ruins of old cities. He could see dead forests and dried rivers. The surface of Earth was still damaged from the Great Purge, still struggling to heal. But there was green in some places. Small patches of life that had survived and spread over 3 centuries. Earth was not completely dead. Given time, it could recover. "Sir," Soman said, "all 50,000 ships of the first wave have successfully launched. No casualties. No malfunctions." Kyung allowed himself a small smile. Engineer Hannah's preparations had been perfect. As the dawn's light continued to climb, Kyung watched more ships emerge from the planet below. The second wave was launching from Asia, the third wave from Africa, the fourth wave from South America, the fifth wave from Australia. Within an hour, 500,000 ships filled the space around Earth. They formed a cloud of metal and fire that could be seen from orbit. The largest fleet in the history of the galaxy had just been born. "Commander," Taiho's voice came through every speaker on every ship. "Humanity has returned to the stars. 300 years ago, we were pushed underground. We were burned and poisoned and left for dead. But we survived. We built. We grew stronger. And now we rise." On the bridge of his command ship, Taiho looked at the tactical display showing 500,000 green dots surrounding Earth. Each dot was a warship. Each warship carried hundreds or thousands of crew members. In total, over 10 million humans were now in space. "Fleet status," Taiho requested. General Sora answered from her position on a nearby ship. "All 500,000 vessels report ready for faster-than-light travel. We have full weapons capability. Shields are at maximum. The fleet is yours, Commander." Taiho took a deep breath. This was the moment. No going back. Set course for the Council homeworld. Engage faster-than-light drive on my mark. The fleet turned as one, 500,000 ships moving in perfect formation. They pointed toward a distant star that held the center of galactic civilization. The Council homeworld. The place where humanity's fate had been decided 3 centuries ago. 3. Taiho counted. 2. 1. Mark. Space twisted and bent as 500,000 ships jumped into faster-than-light travel. The Sol system was suddenly empty again, but this time, the emptiness meant something different. Earth's children were coming home. The journey took 5 days. During that time, the crews rested and prepared. They checked their weapons. They reviewed their targets. They talked about what they would do after the war. Kyung spent his time walking through the dawn's light, speaking with his crew. He visited the engineering section, where workers monitored the engines. He visited the weapons bays, where soldiers prepared missiles and energy cannons. He visited the medical bay, where doctors waited for patients they hoped would never come. Everywhere he went, he saw the same thing: determined faces hiding nervous hearts. These were not professional soldiers. They were engineers and teachers and farmers who had been trained for war. They had never killed anyone. Many of them had never even raised their voice in anger. But they were ready. They knew what was at stake. They knew that the galaxy needed to see human strength, or it would try to finish what it started 300 years ago. On the 3rd day, Kyung found a young crew member sitting alone in an observation room. She was looking out at the swirling lights of faster-than-light travel, her face wet with tears. "What is your name?" Kyung asked, sitting beside her. "Yuri, sir." She quickly wiped her eyes. "I am sorry. I should not be crying." "There is no shame in tears," Kyung said. "I have cried many times during this journey." Yuri looked at him with surprise. "You, sir? But you are a commander. Commanders are human too." Kyung gestured at the lights outside the window. "Do you know what I was thinking about? My family. My parents never wanted me to join the military. They wanted me to be a farmer, growing food in the hydroponic bays. Safe, peaceful, far from danger. What made you choose differently?" Kyung was quiet for a moment. "When I was 12 years old, my grandfather took me to a memorial. It was a wall carved with names. Millions of names. All the people we could identify who died in the Great Purge. My grandfather showed me his grandmother's name on that wall. He told me that she had been a teacher. She taught children how to read and write. She never hurt anyone in her life. But the aliens killed her anyway." He looked at Yuri. "That day, I decided that her death needed to mean something. I decided that I would help humanity return to the stars so that people like her would never be forgotten." Yuri nodded slowly. "My grandmother's name is on a wall too. She was a musician. Then you understand." Kyung stood up. "We are not fighting for revenge, Yuri. We are fighting so that the music and the teaching and the farming and all the beautiful things humanity created can continue. We are fighting for the future." He put a hand on her shoulder. "Cry if you need to. Fear if you need to. But when the time comes, do your duty. That is all anyone can ask." Yuri straightened in her seat. "I will not let you down, sir." Kyung returned to the bridge feeling a little better. He had spoken truth to Yuri, but he had also reminded himself of why they were doing this. It was easy to get lost in strategy and tactics. It was easy to forget that behind every ship, every weapon, every plan, there were human beings with hopes and fears. On the 5th day, the fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Council space. All ships holding position, Somin reported. No enemy contacts detected. They do not know we are here. Kyung looked at the tactical display. The Council homeworld was only a few hours away at normal speed. By now, the celebration would be in full swing. Aliens from across the galaxy would be gathered to mark the anniversary of humanity's extinction. "Commander." Taiho's face appeared on the communication screen. "First wave, you have the honor of leading us in. Captain Kyung, take your 50,000 ships and secure the orbital space around the Council homeworld. The rest of the fleet will follow at 2-minute intervals. Understood, Commander. Kyung turned to his crew. You heard him. Let us go introduce ourselves. The first wave jumped forward, crossing the final distance to the Council homeworld in a burst of faster-than-light speed. They dropped back into normal space directly above the planet. What they saw took their breath away. The Council homeworld was covered in lights. Cities stretched across every continent. Ships filled the orbital space. And everywhere, there were signs of celebration. Fireworks exploded in the atmosphere. Music played on every frequency. The aliens were having the party of a century. Open hailing frequencies, Kyung ordered. Broadcast on all channels. He stood straight and spoke clearly. Attention, citizens of the Council. My name is Captain Kyung of the human fleet. 300 years ago, you believed you destroyed my species. You celebrated our day. Admiral Yuna stood before the council chamber with trembling hands. Around her, the most powerful beings in the galaxy sat in stunned silence. Outside, 500,000 human warships filled the sky, blocking out the stars they had taken for granted for 3 centuries. Admiral, the council leader said, his voice shaking, you told us they were extinct. You personally confirmed it. Yuna could barely speak. I saw the scans. There was no life on the surface. The radiation levels were lethal. Nothing could have survived. Clearly something did survive, another council member snapped. 500,000 somethings are now pointing weapons at our planet. The chamber erupted in argument. Species that had cooperated for millennia now blamed each other for the disaster unfolding outside. The Helix representatives accused the Council of giving bad orders. The Council accused the Helix of failing to complete the mission properly. Everyone accused everyone else. Only Ambassador Mira of the Wanderers remained calm. She sat quietly, watching the chaos around her, remembering the old recordings that her predecessor Tyke had left behind. He had warned them. He had said that destroying the humans was a mistake. No one had listened. Silence. The council leader finally shouted, Fighting among ourselves will not solve this problem. We need to respond to the human commander. What do we say? No one had an answer. On the human flagship, Commander Taiho waited patiently. He had expected this. The council had never faced a real threat before. They had forgotten how to think under pressure. Commander, General Sora reported, the council fleet is mobilizing. Approximately 30,000 ships are moving into defensive positions around the planet. 30,000 against 500,000, Captain Kyung observed. Those are not good odds for them. No, Taiho agreed. But they may fight anyway. Pride can make people do foolish things. He turned to the communication officer. Open a channel. Let me speak to them again. His voice echoed across the council homeworld and every ship in the area. Council leaders, I understand that you need time to discuss your response. But let me make something clear. We have not traveled across the galaxy to be ignored. We have not spent 300 years preparing just to go away. You will answer us, one way or another. He softened his tone slightly. We do not wish to destroy you. We do not wish to repeat the violence that was done to us. But make no mistake, we will defend ourselves. We will not allow another great purge. If you attack us, we will respond with overwhelming force. Admiral Yuna listened to the transmission from her command ship. She was now in orbit, surrounded by the pathetic remains of the Council fleet. 30,000 ships against 500,000. It was not a battle. It would be a slaughter. All ships, hold position, she ordered. Do not fire unless fired upon. Her officers looked at her with confusion. Admiral, should we not prepare to attack? We cannot let them threaten the Council homeworld. Yuna shook her head slowly. Look at them. Look at those ships. They are more advanced than anything we have. Their weapons, their shields, their engines. All superior. If we attack, we die. All of us. And we accomplish nothing. She thought about the dreams she had been having for 3 centuries. The human faces. The promise in their eyes. They had told her they would return. She just had not believed it. The council made a terrible mistake, Una said quietly. I helped make that mistake. Perhaps it is time to pay for it. She opened a channel to the council chamber. This is Admiral Una. I am ordering all Helix forces to stand down. We cannot win this fight. If the council wants to throw away lives for nothing, they can use their own ships. The council erupted in outrage. They called Una a coward and a traitor. They demanded she be removed from command. But their own military leaders agreed with her assessment. The numbers were clear. Fighting was suicide. Ambassador Myra stood up. May I speak? The chamber fell silent. The Wanderers rarely spoke in council meetings. When they did, it was usually worth hearing. 300 years ago, I was not alive, Myra began. But my predecessor was. Ambassador Tyke met humans face to face. He spoke with them. He learned their ways. And he left recordings for future generations. She activated a hologram showing old images of Earth before the Great Purge. Beautiful cities, green forests, blue oceans, children playing in parks. This is what we destroyed. Not a threat, not a danger, a civilization, a people who dreamed and hoped and loved, just like us. She looked around the chamber. Tyke believed we made a mistake. He believed the humans could have been our allies, our teachers, our friends. We destroyed them out of fear, not wisdom. And now that fear has come back to haunt us. The council leader leaned forward. What do you suggest we do, Ambassador? Apologize? Yes, Myra said simply. I suggest we apologize. I suggest we acknowledge what we did wrong. I suggest we offer to make amends. And if they reject our apology? If they want revenge? Mira looked out the window at the human ships filling the sky. Then we face the consequences of our actions, just as any civilized being should. Commander Taiho received the council's request for talks with cautious optimism. He agreed to meet with their representatives on neutral ground, a space station halfway between the human fleet and the council homeworld. He brought General Sora and Captain Kyung with him. The council sent Ambassador Mira, Admiral Una, and the council leader himself. The meeting room was small and cold. 6 beings sat across from each other, their fates and the fates of billions resting on their words. The council leader spoke first. Commander Taiho, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I offer our formal apology for the Great Purge. We acknowledge that what we did was wrong. We were afraid, and we acted out of fear. Taiho listened with a stone face. An apology is words. What actions will follow? We are prepared to recognize humanity as a sovereign species with full rights in galactic affairs. We will return the Sol System to human control. We will provide assistance in rebuilding Earth's surface. We will give you everything we took away, except the lives of 8 billion people. The room fell silent. Taiho stood and walked to the window. Outside, human ships patrolled in perfect formation. His ships, his people, the survivors of the greatest genocide in history. Do you know what we did for 300 years? He asked. We did not just build ships. We studied you. We learned your languages, your cultures, your histories. We wanted to understand why you tried to destroy us. He turned to face the council. And do you know what we found? You were afraid. The old species had ruled the galaxy for so long that they forgot how to change. They forgot how to grow. When humans appeared, growing faster than anyone had ever seen, they panicked. They saw the future, and it scared them. Admiral Una could not meet his eyes. She stared at the floor, remembering the faces in her dreams. "We could destroy you," Taiho continued. "We have the power. We have the right. You murdered our ancestors. You celebrated our deaths every year for 3 centuries. Any court in any civilization would say we deserve revenge." General Sora's hand moved toward her weapon. She wanted revenge. She had always wanted revenge. But revenge would make us no better than you. Taiho sat back down. Humanity has spent 300 years becoming something new. Something better than we were before the Great Purge. Better than you. If we destroy you out of anger, we prove that we were exactly what you feared. He looked at Ambassador Mira. "Your predecessor, Tyke, we found his recordings in your archives. He was right about us. We could have been allies. We could have changed the galaxy together." Mira nodded sadly. "I know. I have watched those recordings many times. Then let us start now. Not as conquerors and conquered. Not as victims and victimizers. But as equals. Partners in building a future that is better than the past." The council leader exhaled slowly. "You are offering peace? I am offering a chance. You have 1 generation to prove that you have changed. 1 generation to show that the species who committed genocide can grow beyond their fear. If you fail, if you threaten us again, we will not be merciful a second time." The terms were harsh but fair. The council had no choice but to accept. They signed agreements that gave humanity everything they asked for and more. Full recognition, resource compensation, a permanent seat on the council, military agreements that prevented any future attacks. As the meeting ended, Admiral Yuna approached Commander Taiho. "I was there," she said quietly. "I was a young officer when we attacked Earth. I watched the bombs fall. I watched your planet burn." Her voice broke. "I have dreamed about it every night since. Faces, human faces, looking at me." Taiho studied her for a long moment. "Then perhaps those dreams can finally stop. Perhaps you can find peace." "How can I find peace after what I did?" "By spending the rest of your life making sure it never happens again. By being better than you were." Yuna bowed her head. "I will try." The human fleet remained in council space for 1 month. Engineers and scientists from both sides began working together on projects that would benefit everyone. Slowly, carefully, trust began to build. Captain Kyung led exploration, missions to find other human survivors who had escaped to distant colonies before the Great Purge. They found 3 small groups, totaling about 50,000 people who had been hiding on the edges. The stars were quiet in the Sol system. No radio signals. No ships moving between planets. No lights on the blue planet called Earth. Admiral Yuna stood on the bridge of her massive warship and looked at the empty darkness through the viewing window. She was tall with gray skin and 4 arms, like all members of the Helix Empire. Her golden eyes showed no emotion as she watched the dead system. "Scan complete," said her officer. "No life signs detected on any planet. Earth shows heavy radiation damage. The oceans are poison. The air is toxic." Yuna nodded slowly. 300 years ago, the Galactic Council had made a decision. Humans were too dangerous. They grew too fast. They learned too quickly. They asked too many questions. So the Council voted, and the Helix Empire carried out the order. They called it the Great Purge. Yuna remembered that day. She was young then, just a low-ranking officer on a supply ship. But she watched from orbit as thousands of bombs fell on Earth. She watched the cities burn. She watched the oceans boil. She watched the sky turn black with smoke and ash. The humans had fought back. They always fought back. Their ships were small and weak compared to the Helix fleet, but they refused to surrender. Yuna remembered watching a single human fighter crash into a Helix battleship, destroying both. She remembered thinking that these creatures were insane, but now they were gone. All of them. "Admiral," her officer said, "the Council requests your report." Una turned away from the window. "Tell them what we found." "Nothing. The humans are extinct. Earth is dead. Sol system is empty." She walked to her command chair and sat down. Her 4 hands pressed buttons on the control panel, and a hologram appeared in front of her. It showed a map of the galaxy with all the Council territories marked in different colors. The Sol system was marked in black. Dead. Empty. Forgotten. "Set course for the Council homeworld," Una ordered. "Our mission here is complete." The ship turned away from Earth and jumped into faster-than-light travel. In seconds, the Sol system was far behind them. On the Council homeworld, the news spread quickly. Humans were confirmed extinct. The celebration lasted for 30 days. Every species in the Council joined the party. They drank and danced and sang songs about their victory over the dangerous. Humans. Ambassador Tyke watched the celebration from his private room. He was old now, with white hair and wrinkled skin. He was not from the Helix Empire. His people were called the Wanderers, and they had always stayed neutral in galactic politics. They watched. They listened. They remembered. Taek did not celebrate. He sat in his chair and looked at old recordings on his screen. Recordings of humans. He watched them build cities. He watched them create art. He watched them laugh and cry and love each other. He watched them fight wars against each other and then make peace. He watched them reach for the stars with hope in their eyes, and he watched them die. "Such a waste," Tyke whispered to himself. "Such a terrible waste." His assistant, a young wanderer named Myra, entered the room. "Ambassador, the Council leader wants you to join the celebration." "Tell him I'm sick," Tyke said. "Tell him I am too old for parties." Mira looked at the screen showing the human recordings. "You feel sorry for them," she said. It was not a question. "I feel sorry for us all," Tyke replied. The humans were not perfect. They made mistakes. They could be violent and cruel. But they also had something that most species in this galaxy have forgotten. "What is that?" "Hope," Tyke said. The humans never stopped hoping. Even when everything was against them, they believed tomorrow could be better. They believed they could change. They believed they could grow. He shook his head slowly. "And we killed them for it." Mira was quiet for a moment. Then she asked, "Do you think the Council was wrong?" Tyke looked at her with tired eyes. "I think the Council was afraid. Fear makes people do terrible things. The humans were different from us. They changed too fast. They evolved too quickly. In just a few thousand years, they went from living in caves to flying between stars. That kind of growth scared the older species. It made them feel small and slow. So they destroyed the humans before the humans could destroy them? That was the reasoning, yes." Tyke turned off the screen. The images of humans disappeared. "But I wonder sometimes. I wonder if we destroyed our best hope for the future. The humans were not our enemies. They could have been our teachers. They could have shown us how to grow again." Outside, the celebration continued. Fireworks lit up the sky. Music filled the streets. Everyone was happy that the human threat was finally over. Years passed. Then decades. Then centuries. The galaxy forgot about humans. Children grew up without ever hearing the name Earth. History books were rewritten to remove any mention of the dangerous species that once lived in the Sol system. The Great Purge became a secret, known only to the oldest members of the Council. Admiral Una became the leader of the Helix Empire's entire fleet. She was the most powerful military commander in the galaxy. But sometimes, late at night, she would look at the star maps and find the Sol system. She would stare at that black mark and remember the day she watched Earth burn. She never told anyone about the dreams. In her dreams, she saw human faces. Men, women, and children looking at her with eyes full of fear and anger and something else. Something that looked like a promise. A promise that they would not forget. A promise that they would return. Una always woke up from these dreams covered in sweat. She would tell herself that it was just her imagination. The humans were dead. She had confirmed it herself. There was nothing left on Earth but ruins and radiation. But deep in her heart, a small voice whispered doubts. The scans had shown no life on the surface. But what about below the surface? What about deep underground, where the radiation could not reach? What about the caves and tunnels and bunkers that humans were known to build? Una pushed these thoughts away. It was impossible. No species could survive underground for 300 years. No species could hide from the Council's advanced scanners. The humans were gone. They had to be gone. Ambassador Tyke died at the age of 412. He was the last person who had actually met a human face to face. He was the last person who remembered their voice, their smile, their determination. With his death, the last living memory of humanity disappeared from the galaxy. His assistant Myra took his place as ambassador of the Wanderers. She kept his recordings safe in a hidden archive. Sometimes, when she was alone, she would watch them. She would study the strange creatures called humans and try to understand what made them so special and so dangerous. Myra was the only one who still wondered. She was the only one who still asked questions. Everyone else had moved on. The galaxy was at peace. Trade routes were open. Species cooperated and competed in normal ways. No one thought about Earth anymore. 300 years after the Great Purge, the Galactic Council held a special meeting. They wanted to officially declare the Sol system open for mining. The planets were rich with minerals. The asteroid belt contained rare metals. It would be wasteful to let these resources sit unused. Admiral Una was invited to speak at the meeting. She stood before the council and gave her recommendation. The Sol system is safe, she said. I have personally confirmed the extinction of the human species. There is no reason to keep the system restricted. The council voted unanimously to open the Sol system. Mining ships were sent to begin operations. For the first time in 300 years, alien vessels entered Earth's orbit. The mining commander was named Juan. He was young and ambitious, eager to prove himself. He stood on his ship's bridge and looked down at the brown and gray planet below. Earth looked sick, dead, but it was still beautiful in a sad way. Begin scanning for mineral deposits, Juan ordered. Focus on the continental shelves. The humans built most of their cities near water, so there should be plenty of metal in the ruins. His crew started working. Scanners swept across the planet's surface. Data streamed across their screens. Everything looked normal. Everything looked dead. Then one of the crew members noticed something strange. Commander, she said, I am picking up unusual readings from deep underground. Juan walked over to her station. What kind of readings? Heat signatures. Very faint. Could be volcanic activity. She adjusted her instruments. But the pattern is strange. It is too regular to be natural. Juan felt a cold sensation in his chest. How deep? Approximately 5 kilometers below the surface. Too deep for our scanners to get a clear image. Juan stared at the screen for a long moment. His training told him to report this to the council. His instincts told him to leave immediately. But his curiosity won. Send a probe, he ordered. I want to know what is making that heat. The probe was launched. It drilled through rock and soil and ancient ruins. It went deeper and deeper into the earth. The crew watched its progress on their screens. 1 kilometer. 2 kilometers. 3 kilometers. At 4 kilometers, the probe stopped transmitting. What happened? Juan demanded. Unknown, his crew member said. The signal just stopped. No warning. No malfunction alert. It just went silent. Juan felt the cold sensation grow stronger. Send another probe. They sent 3 more probes. Each one stopped transmitting at exactly 4 kilometers below the surface. Get us out of here, Juan said quietly. Now, his crew looked at him with confusion. Sir, we just started our mission. The Council will double you.